So, welcome everyone, and welcome to the 7 Days of Rest. It's a wonderful initiative put on by Shelley Ostroff and Jan Golding. They're actually in Israel, and they do it every year. And it's a 7 day. It's for 7 days. We're resting. 7 days of rest. Exactly. So we're resting for 7 days. And every year I always say that we have to put readitation on here because readitation and rest for most of us and for me is resting. That's a real rest in readitation. So readitation is a meditative reading, and the purpose of it is to nourish the mind. And on 7 days of rest, there are 7 days and each one has a theme. And the theme of today, the second day, which is Sunday when we have our Zoom meeting, the theme for today is nourishing. And when I first heard that, I went like, okay, I guess I don't cook, I don't feed people, somebody else does that for me. And so, I thought, and then what came to my mind is uh, a quote from James Allen, a book called As a Man Thinketh. It's in everybody's background if they were in this path for a long time. Maybe they haven't made it gender appropriate now. It's probably as a woman, as a man or a woman thinketh. Anyway, but so James Allen says in there this beautiful thing. He says, cherish your visions, cherish your ideals, cherish the music that stirs in your heart. Cherish the loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts. So I don't know why I went from cherish to nourish to cherish, but I did. And so I began to think that in meditation and meditative reading, we really cherish the loveliness that drapes our purest thoughts. And, I think it's so important. I thought about it, and I'm sure you all can understand it, that the mind is so beleaguered now. It's so stressed. It's the mind. It's constantly thinking, and look what we're hearing. I mean, this is obvious. Day and night, everywhere, conversations, everything. That is the thought field. I mean, some of us are lucky to be. We're all lucky to be in this genre of conscious evolution in terms of being able to hear something else than that all the time. And, like I think even memorizing poems or memorizing great statements is great because sometimes you can just pull it up in your mind, and just go over it and over it. And that helps too, anything that can help. The mind is so tired out. I think we're really actually going below the mind in many areas of society. So I think it's really important that we, meditate and consider really incredible truths and teachings handed down over the ages and beautiful from the philosophers and the sages and the wise people and the wisdom teachings, just to take a look at those and really have them at our disposal. So that's what I wanted to say. So I want to tell you what we do in Readitation for those who are not on it. And Readitation is a practice, and we choose a half an hour sometime during the day, 30 minutes. And at that point, we find a wonderful place to sit. It'd be nice if you have the same place. And you can light a candle. It's very comfortable. It's very elegant. And then you take out your favorite spiritual reading, and you sit down and you read for 30 minutes. And when you start reading, you can go on the Facebook page. There's a Facebook page for Readitation, a daily spiritual adjustment. And there's also a text group. Yeah, we have a text group where people text each other that they're starting or might want to say how they are. And that's kind of a community. So you can do that. And then you read for half an hour. Now you can read for half an hour. You can read one sentence and contemplate. You can sit with it. You can meditate with it. I mean, anything happens. Anything that happens is whatever happens in meditation stays in meditation, and it's totally fine. So that's what we do. At the end, sometimes people text or post again, like post what they read and maybe an insight that we had. We all love to hear people's insights and how that was an aha moment, or what made them really take something in that is working to transform. So that's basically what we do in meditation. So I'm going to ask Ron now to speak a little more about it.
Good. Very good. Just in the 2 minutes that are allotted to speak of the history of readitation, I have to laugh. I mean, this was done for years as a practice. Many of you know it. Many of you have heard this. We used to read for hours every morning, every day, longer on weekends. And this was done for years. And it made me think of the fact that since we're only doing it half an hour now, that there's a principle involved. And in common language, you have heard it as pay it forward. That the reading that we did then, the hours, the effort, the understanding, has been compressed and available now in half an hour. And so this is why readitation is jam-packed. It's jam-packed with meaning, and it nourishes the mind, but the higher part of mind, the one that is able to make connection with higher realms. And we know this because this is one of the purposes of readitation. We also love the fact that we recommend books to each other. Some beautiful books that we have never heard of individually, someone else is reading, and suddenly we grab that book and it's like opening another door. And every morning or every time we read, or at the end of the day when we see our notes, is wonderful. We're not local. We know that more and more, and the very thought that we're not local and contributing not only to the group, to a higher whole, changes our state of consciousness. So it's a wonderful practice with hidden significance.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. So I'd like to tell you what we're going to do today. So I'm going to give a few instructions here, and then I'm going to put up a quote or a reading from a teaching, and we'll have a minute and a half or 2 minutes to look at it ourselves. Just read it to ourselves. When you read it, try to read a little slower than you read. Basically, it's not actually to read slow, it's to change your rhythm. If you're a really slow reader, you might want to go fast. But most of us are not slow readers. If you're like me, you're a skimmer. So just read it a little slower, and also look at the words. We have Janet Warfield here with us from Word Sculptures, and we studied with Kenneth Mills, and he said words are very important. Words are very powerful. They're sound transmissions. So when you read it, look at the different words. What word comes out at you? And watch what's happening in your body. Be very aware what's going on. Like is there a sense of energy shift or something touching your heart? So that's what we're going to be doing. And we'll have three different, well, we'll see how it goes, but we have three different teachings that we could put up. We'll see how long we go. So we'll read it to ourselves, and then we'll open it up to everybody's input. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so I think we're ready to start with the first reading. Sorry. Okay, I hope Noel has put the statement in the chat. So the way we're going to do this is that if you want to contribute, could you please just raise your hand in front of your face? I don't want to use the reaction part on Zoom. I'd like you just to raise your hand like this, and I will call on you and unmute yourself and add to the conversation. Raising our hand is a very wonderful gesture. The hand is an incredible thing. There's so much energy here. So when you raise your hand and you hear your voice, which is a tone, you're not just talking. There's something else is going on. And then you can put your hand down. And you'll be able to come in and out more than once. So please keep your comments really short so we can have a conversation rather than a dialogue. Okay, so I'll start off with saying that the word for me, and I've heard this many times, that came out was trace. I just thought trace out this over self. Trace, because when you put trace, where the artist will trace, you put a piece of paper and there's something underneath it, and then you draw on it to trace what's already there. I love that word. So we're not, we're not investigating something that has never been. We're trace out. I just love Paul Brunton. Paul Brunton was a wonderful British philosopher, very gentle, quiet man who didn't teach, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the century he lived in, but that's what came out for me today. So I'd like to open it up. So please raise your hand and unmute yourself, and I'll call upon you to contribute. Janet, you have to unmute yourself. Janet, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, that's why we need one another. Were your instructions to pick a single word out of this, or just whatever impacted us?
Whatever.
Okay. The last part is what impacted me. We shall realize that body and intellect are not our be-all, but the overself is the witness of both, the source of complete peace, perfect intelligence, and absolute immortality. And it was also, also then we shall realize that body and intellect are not our be-all, but the overself is the witness of both. Because what our minds do, anyway, or our intellects do, is we stand outside and we try to look at what's out there. And we're conditioned to do this all the time. But you get to a point where it doesn't work anymore. And at that point, it's almost as if you become the witness of everything, of yourself, of others, of human dynamics going on, of the world, so that this quote over self that word is a placeholder for something that the human mind has made up, but it is a placeholder for an experience, which is very different from the maps of the experience, which we humans create all the time. The maps fight with one another, and they separate ourselves from this quote overself, which for me is a living, breathing energy that I can either block or allow to flow through in each and every present moment. I'm complete. I hope that wasn't too long. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Janet, the overself. Yes. Christina.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. This first paragraph to this saying, and Paul Brunton happens to be one of my favorites, is very near and dear to me. But the following paragraphs, I either never read before, I'm not quite sure, but one thing that is certain is that these ideas, these words have life force. There's no doubt about it. In fact, when reading this and other, beautiful, beautiful spiritual teachings, there's an energy that comes through, and it's an excitement almost. When I heard you say the word trace, I dropped off the T, and it's a race. Like my heart races, and what was just said is so true. That these are energetic experiences, and allowing yourself to be washed over by this energy. This is definitely a life-giving, life force giving. These words are that, they're life force energy.
Yes, thank you, Christina. Thank you. Craig.
Yeah, the imagery is very beautiful. Even the first sentence, wrapped in the folds, and then a hidden rare jewel that's beyond any known price. And the other thing that I loved is source of complete peace. But the thing that that stands out was kind of what was the first thing that was said, is that when I think about this, it seems like he's pointing to the right use of effort. It's different than becoming something. Like you put the effort in to become something better, or to gain something we don't already have, to become more whatever it is in the world. He's actually saying the opposite. We already possess this. If we're going to use effort, use the right effort, point it in the right direction, if effort's even the word that we can use, and find out what is already there, the source of our own being.
Truly, absolutely. And when I looked for the image, of course it said a rare jewel, so I started seeing diamonds. and there were a lot of rare diamonds, by the way. There's some really rare diamonds. They're humongous. And then I don't know why, but I just said this has to be on green. And to me, that meant it was earthed, more earthed in terms of rest and readitation, and rest in silence, and also the whole 7 days of rest, which is very based in the earth, and resting in readitation, and resting in our environment, and resting in where we are. And so I just felt like really drawn to the emerald. Of course, I always loved emeralds. I mean, so yes, Viviana, you have to unmute yourself. Viviana, unmute yourself.
Well, the word that it was a word that hit my attention was gamut. Gamut. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but it was like taking the whole paragraph in context and meaning, and try to understand that very strange word for me. It kind of stands out that it is to go all the way through. It's so clear if you read the whole thing, and then you find this word and the truth of that. Sometimes we are in the middle of many things, and we go just in the surface. Maybe we do things, we meditate, we walk, with whatever, but we really don't do that effort to go to the, I don't know if the right word, but gamut, to the inner, to the really deep bottom of what we really want.
Yes, Deborah.
Yeah, I love that. I love what everyone said. I feel like I couldn't even get past the first sentence. Like Craig was saying, you just stop at this idea that there's this exquisite inquiry into something so precious inside of us that we don't know potentially exists, or we know, but how do we access it? And then these sort of like gentle and loving instructions about how we get there, how we try and approach this idea of going inside to this most precious thing that we all are. And I think this is just such a beautiful quote, like everybody said, and gives us so much incredible guidance and energy about how to approach it. But the rare jewel is really something I think of all the words that stuck out, of just something, because we think so many things are valuable out there, right? We just strive and we think things are valuable out there, and the real truth is, what is out there? It's right here, and what is it? So it's beautiful instructions for me.
Thank you. Cynthia. And then
So I want to echo that comment that was just made, and wrapped in the folds of our own nature hides a rare jewel, though we know it not. And there is a Sufi quote very much like that. And there's different English translations. Of course, it's in Hadith in Arabic, but it says, and this is what God says, I was a hidden treasure. I loved to be known. Hence, I created the world so that I would be known. And other translations might say, I was a hidden treasure and I wished to be known, or I desired to be known. But I like the translation that says, I was a hidden treasure. I loved to be known, because the word loved is a verb. And so what this whole quote is referring to is that rare and beautiful nature that we're not quite stepping over the threshold to touch, which is our source in us, which is peace and all good things. So that's what struck me first, is that perhaps that person that wrote this had heard of that. God himself saying, I was a hidden treasure and I loved so that I would be known and all would be known, and I would know them and they would know me, and basically in unity, there wouldn't be any difference at all. So it is better than any diamond or even emerald.
Jordan.
This to me went straight to feeling. I don't know if it was the green emerald, but it went straight to the heart. And that to me is just the beauty of this passage, that it speaks to the heart, speaks to that energy of something beyond the inner workings of us just as a human being. That we're really connected to the source.
Thank you. Thank you. Ron.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, this is beautiful, and the feeling is definitely so much there. Wait till you hear the next quote. As far as feeling is concerned, just a word about Brunton. He was a student of Ramana Maharshi. And in fact, Ramana Maharshi appeared to him when Brunton was in England, and Brunton followed the path, and eventually he met the man who was in his vision. So, but there's one thing also about this quote, which is that it's speaking to someone who wants to know the overself. It really is talking to someone who is willing to sit down and trace out the overself until you can get no further. So he's talking about the method of direct inquiry as an experience to come to the point where you realize this is something else beyond anything that you thought it was. So it's very beautiful And the person that he's directing it to is truly a seeker. So I love that.
Yes, and I think it's hopeful that he says we're going to run down the gamut of all. So there is an end to it, because he implies that, we can get that you can run it down, and that's a great thing. And of course, I don't think in my life that I could go down through every little thing that is in my personality and my ego and my mind, body, and perceptions, and know every little action that's ever taken. I don't think I could go. It doesn't mean I have to cross, dot every I and cross every T. That doesn't mean that to me, but it's a decision. It's a knowingness that you just kind of run down with that. It's a knowingness that, oh my God, how much more about what I'm not, about my, other self, my illusionary, if you want to call it that, or the self how much of that do we need to know? I mean, there are millions of books written on it. There's a lot more books written on what they're running down that gamut rather than seeking the overself. There's so many more. So when we have run that down just because that's enough, we've done that work, then I think this comes in really, really beautifully. Yes, Becky.
Hello, beautiful humans. The word that stood out to me and just strikes me is immortality. And personally, to embrace my own fear of death, of the unknown, and to contemplate perhaps that there is something eternal in each of us that goes on. So immortality felt like a brazen word and a powerful word and a summation of all of the other words that I find comfort in that. And although I don't know it, I feel it. It intuitively feels true to me, and yet here I am living and breathing. So I can't speak of that other than to point to other beliefs and other traditions that summon that, particularly the word jewel as well, for the Buddhist 3 jewels of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And so I just loved this quote, and thank you so much for bringing this to us to contemplate. Beautiful.
Thank you. And that word immortal, that is a huge word. It's sort of, everything is there in this, that last word, immortal. And, also when he says, you know it not. I mean, how does he know we know it not? I mean, maybe we know it. And I, when I read that this time, and again, I've read Paul Brunton for years, it was like sort of a realization that when he's, perhaps, when he says, you know it not, he's talking to a certain you that will never know it. There's a certain, there's a you that you cannot know, that you is a mind you, it's a thought you, a feeling you, and it cannot ever know what is beyond it. So it can never really, that can never know it, but I can know it. So maybe when he says you do not know it, says it's there, and we have to trace it out. Perhaps he's talking to a you that actually cannot know it. It's a thought. Barbara.
I keep on hearing with everyone speaking the peace that passes all understanding, because you just can't. It's was said earlier. It's so deep, and I always feel like it's a calling, like it's always calling me. Come here. And I was looking at the thread of nourishing the loveliness, and it's every bit of that feeling of the loveliness. But I can't, that's about the best description. It's not anything in the head. It's not an intellectual understanding for me. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you so much. That was beautiful, and that on that piece.
Victoria,
Yes.
Anton came a little bit late. I just like to welcome him and to just, he may not have heard the instructions about raising his hand.
Yeah, Anton, raise your hand to contribute, and we're going to have another statement, and we're speaking 2 minutes or less, and everybody's doing great. You can feel it. It's like a movement. It's just great. Nobody ever corrects us in this. It just know it. Okay, so I think now I'm going to actually turn it over to Ron, who's going to introduce the next statement. I'm going to put it up for us. So
Lawrence just raised his hand.
who?
Lawrence just raised his hand.
Lawrence.
Yeah,
Lawrence.
when I see the source of complete peace, perfect intelligence, and absolute immortality, we were all there at the source. It's part of us. And so when we look and we trace, we're just tracing what's there for all of us.
Perfect ending. The perfect finale. Okay, so Ron, I'm going to hand it over to you and screen share. You want to say a few things first, and I'll put it up. Okay, should I put it up?
Yeah, put it up by all means. Wonderful. We spent many years studying and experiencing the work of Gurdjieff and Uspensky and Maurice Nicole in their various iterations of the work of George Gurdjieff. And this is a statement by Maurice Nicole in this 6-volume set of books called Psychological Commentaries on the Teachings of Gurdjieff and Uspensky. And I can tell you, it is one of the most beautiful and clear statements about the study of the personality, revealing it in absolute sunlight, and how to move beyond it and to the point of what is called self-remembering. And this statement, which is in the beginning of a book called Basic Self-Knowledge, is really one of my most favorite statements, and it is so full of feeling. And, you know, before we look at it in a little more detail, just read it quietly, and then we'll ask perhaps 1 or 2 people to read it. Thank you. Thank you. Jordan, would you be good enough to read it?
Sure.
Thank you.
This work is beautiful when you see why it exists and what it means. It is about liberation. It is as beautiful as if, locked for years in prison, you see a stranger entering who offers you a key. But you may refuse it because you have acquired prison habits and forgotten your origin, which is from the stars.
Thank you. And perhaps one more reading. Anne-Marie, would you be willing to do the honors?
This work is beautiful when you see why it exists and what it means. It is about liberation. It is as beautiful as if locked for years in prison, you see a stranger entering who offers you a key. But you may refuse it because you have acquired prison habits and forgotten your origin, which is from the stars.
Thank you, thank you. Noel, if you could just put this into the chat, and we can go back to the gallery view.
It's in the chat and you'll need to do a stop share, please.
I'm just giving it a few more minutes, Ron, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. So we're open for response. Elena.
We read this so long ago that it's years and years and years. It could be 10, 20 years ago. But when I read it now, it's like I never forgot it. Like it came back to me because the liberation, prison habits, and prison, those words they spoke to me the first time I read it, because that key to get out of there, you won't accept it because you've lived that way for so long. And those prison habits are so strong that it's really, really hard to accept the key. It's like a person who's been in the dark for so long and they get out of a cave and they run back into the cave because the light, they can't take the light.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is a memorable statement, indeed. Janet.
Finally, the system cooperated. Thank you. And I guess the statement is not in the chat. Am I correct? Or
It is in the chat.
oh, okay. Then I must just not have hit the right button here. Okay, I personally don't see it. However, from my recollection of what I saw before, I'm thinking maybe the prisoner refuses the key until there's a prison riot and they practically get killed and they want to get out. At which point they desperately grab that key and say, oh my God, let me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm complete.
Thank you. And I do think that's a pertinent comment. We are at the point of riots. So yes, Christina.
That was funny. It is such a beautiful, all-encompassing quote. I mean, it really speaks to not only the journey of mankind with a capital M, but also the possibilities of mankind. I mean, it really, I never realized the sweeping story that this quote tells us about who and what we are, what we don't recognize ourselves to be, and the potentiality of what we are. It's not even potentiality, it's what we are made of and what we are. It's beautiful. It really is absolutely beautiful. I'm very grateful for it having been selected as one of the quotes.
Yeah, indeed. Deborah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the code too for so many years, but today when we read it, like Helena was saying, I felt like different things came out. And one of the things was about the stranger. The stranger enters and offers you a key. You know, we're in this prison and we're prison habits, but I was thinking, who's the stranger? What is the stranger that enters to offer you the key? I mean, and it could be like readitation. It could be a quote you read, like what brings you back, what opens the door. It could be what this whole, you know, readitation or nature or a teacher or whatever it is, or anything that just brings you back. But it's so beautiful because you have to be so open to be like, what is the stranger? Can you recognize the stranger when it's offering you the key? Because when you're in prison, you're waiting for one thing, you're waiting for something to let you out a certain way. But this is saying it's unknown, it's uncertain. Something comes to you in a way that is maybe not what's expected from the prison habit. And therefore that stranger has to be, open, and we have to be like, so it's so kind of interesting and mystical and kind of looking for the symbolism or looking for things in our lives that are those keys all the time. So it was different. I'm always focused on the liberation. I love the part about all the prison habits, but today it was about the stranger. Yeah.
I should say very quickly, and then Craig and Barbara, that my introduction to the Gurdjieff work was literally by a stranger in the middle of a huge cocktail party in the Catskills years ago. And so that's exactly how it happened to me in a literal sense. Of course, spiritually, I was drawn to them like a magnet, but that's another story. Craig.
Yeah, I mean, it's there are very stark, seemingly contradictory images, right? So one is prison. You think of prison confinement, limitation, schedules, lack of any ability to have free will over your life. And then you think of the stars as being expansion of the unknown, the beauty, all the light. But the thing about prison habits that I heard differently today was, if you're if you think of somebody that's been institutionalized, it really speaks to our world today that we have institutional habits in the way we approach life. And that's why we can't have conversations that are expansive. We can't have viewpoints that are expansive. We can't come up with resolutions and solutions that bring us closer to our own intrinsic nature, because as a society, as a humanity, in many ways, we've acquired these prison habits of limitation. It's very Matrix-like. Speaking of the Matrix 4, which is out now, Resurrections, I totally think you should see it. I know there's a lot of controversy about how good it is, but Neo had acquired prison habits these past 17 years, and he finally got free because he had the desire. So,
okay, Anton doesn't. Anton, do you want to say something? Yes, please unmute. And then Barbara.
Thank you. Thanks for including me in this. It's a wonderful occasion. I'm going to be kind of literal about this because it reminds me of Carl Sagan and Lawrence Krauss, even Richard Dawkins and a few others, who remind us that we literally are here composed of material because stars somewhere out there exploded, and the material from the parts of those stars that made the atoms beyond the hydrogen and helium and lithium coalesced into this astounding progression of events that resulted in this emergence of us as humans. And I think that it's all co-emergent as far as I can tell, and part of any kind of work, as far as I can tell, is the attenuation of the ego. And one of the most humbling and ego attenuating things is to truly contemplate the mysteries of deep time and the processes that we can observe, other than and noting the observer of it all, and just feeling that wonder That wonder can be a doorway to many rather astounding insights. Thank you.
Thank you. Indeed. Barbara.
And this is a beautiful conversation, and I couldn't help but think of one of our punch words from last year, or the last 2 years, has been systemic. And I thought about the prison habits, how they are. It's such an underlying thing. And then what's so strange about living in this land, I'm kind of thinking in the Matrix, we live in this land where there's all these underlying suggestions of how we need to be. But as in the earlier reading with Carl Brunton, there's something deeper that knows a truth. And for me, it feels like I'm always opening and opening and opening. I'm waiting for graduation. I haven't gotten there yet. But to know that there's doors opening always, and to also have some idea, and not from my head, again, it's from my heart, to have an idea from my heart. You know, because I don't know, I'm kind of done trying to fix it on this level, because it just becomes another level of this level. So this is just beautiful. I hope to see you all out of prison one of these days. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Viviana, and then Nina and Cynthia.
Well, I just wanted to make this reference to the beauty of this work, because, you know, even if you sometimes forget because you are so in prison, there is always something that comes to you, and, you know, wakes you up. And probably, you know, it's just showing you the key to get out of prison. And the fact that something shows up, you know, makes you realize that the beauty of this work, because once it gets into you, once you follow the path, you will never be able to leave the path.
That's so true. One way or another, we may try, but it comes back. Nina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for holding the space for this. I kind of had a collide of the two just now when we were reading the previous quote, over self. And I couldn't help but hear, get over yourself, in that tone. And as I was reading, you know, this other quote, get over yourself, started turning into get over yourself, get over yourself, get over yourself. So there was this collide of like, there was the key for me out of that imprisonment of get over yourself, where it turned into this softness. And it was just a really beautiful collide for me of the two. And I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I felt that too. Yeah. Cynthia.
So when I read this, I reminded myself that we have the key, all the keys. We have a stranger in us that's trying to give us those keys. And so it's not rocket science. We just have to go within, live more and more in love all the time, not judge, give everything the benefit of the doubt. So exactly what we need in the way of words or people or events, experiences are all coming to us. This is going to be a great year, but we have the key. That's what came to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Anne-Marie.
Along those lines of non-judgment, and as Cynthia said, is in Readatation lately, I have been reading about how our power of reason can get into the way. And what came to me with this quote is when the stranger comes to give us the key. Well, we've been in this prison and it's just not reasonable. It doesn't make any sense. Why would a stranger come in here and offer us a key to let us be? So we stumble with our head and get caught up in this reason. Oh, it just doesn't make any sense. Now, wait a minute. Why would someone be just letting us be free? So that's what I got out of this quote this next time reading it, is how we may not accept the key because our head gets in the way.
Yeah, our head. And we may also have just gotten new furniture for the prison cell and new curtains. And it looks so nice in there. You know, why would I want to step out of this place that I just redecorated so nicely? Lawrence.
This came to me as I was reading this and hearing people speak. And to me, this is about speaking truth to power, because that's liberation. And the truth comes from source. So it's like stepping out, really stepping out.
Stepping out.
We have the keys, I think everyone has said, you know.
Yes, thank you. Anton.
Thank you, Ron. It reminds me that it does sometimes take a shock to knock your observing powers out of the bars of your belief systems, which you know, your thoughts are pretty much the bars of your prison to begin with. Reminded of something Dr. Mills said. He said, what you are looking for is what is doing the looking. So the stranger could very well be yourself, your own unrecognized self. So that's kind of how it is, and doing it with thought is kind of futile until you observe your own silliness. I was taught a hand gesture that demonstrated the futility of seeking. And if I may, I'm going to demonstrate it here. So, I hope you can see this. There's a closed hand.
Yes.
There's the apparent object of seeking, which is sticking out of it. Oh, 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 I can't find it. Where is it? I can't grasp it. What is it?
Yeah, well, that's why it's called the work, especially in the Gurdjieff system.
Yeah, I think the work starts after you realize that.
Yeah, and it takes a while to get there. And that's a period in itself when you realize that. But so I missed someone. Yes, Becky.
I've been capturing a picture that I hope will come through. I'll turn off my background. Let me turn off my background. Hang on, Snoopy. Then you can see it better. Hang on. All right. So this is, hang on.
Wow. Colorful, beautiful.
And instead of curtains, she has a little mouse in her prison. and she's looking down, and you can see that her heart space is open to receive the star that she is. Thank you for letting me share.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah. You can feel the freedom. You can feel the escape velocity. the heart that is reaching out into the universe. Yes. Victoria.
I always love when silence comes upon a group. It's so wonderful to be in a silence. There's so many different silences, as Ron's poem says, you know. So that silence was, I could feel we were kind of in a little bit of a silence. And I was thinking of those prison habits. I mean, I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking, what would I say a prison habit is? Somebody said to me, what's one of your prison habits? But what is one of my prison habits? Well, I would say one is worrying about the future. It's kind of a big habit. I guess once we would start them, they would be very obvious. So I was wondering, well, maybe we could take 3 people just to see what do they say is one of their, I mean, a prison habit we have seen is no longer a prison habit because we've seen it. You know, when you're in prison, you don't know what your prison habits are.
So you're
So
asking for some contributions on what
yeah,
a prison
if
habit.
somebody says, what comes to your mind, what, just 2 or 3, you know, what is a prison habit, just something.
Yeah, I know Becky mentioned ones earlier, which is the fear of death. Janet.
And Bob.
Well, again, I'm laughing because on the outside, a prison habit can look precisely like a ritual imposed by somebody else that you feel you have to do. However, when you shift that same conduct into something that you choose to do because it supports you, it's a whole different experience. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet.
Well, Bob had his hand up.
Bob, yes.
Thank you. In the moment, mine is not seeing others as a reflection of myself.
Helena.
I have so many prison habits, I wouldn't even know where to begin. But, you know, fear, worry, judgment, they're all habits, and worry is just all over the place. And fear of something you don't even know what you have fear of, and judgment.
Yeah. We'll share a few. Jordan.
Yeah, I would say a big one is isolation. And it's, you know, during the whole pandemics, it's really, I've become much more acutely aware of how debilitating it is.
That's very close to literal prison habit. Yeah. Anne-Marie, did I miss you?
No, I didn't raise my hand, but I would be happy to add to the prison habit list. You know, again, thinking things are reasonable and that everyone has the same idea of reason as I do. I think that's something of what Bob was that, oh, don't they see that it's reasonable, and why are they doing, you know, but to catch that, to what is reasonable.
When it becomes a matter of opinion. Barbara.
I watch for my level of comfort very strongly. And I'll say this morning, I usually go for a walk in the morning, and I got up a little late today and thought, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I usually go with that. But this morning, and the reason I wasn't going to do it is I was going to watch a TV show. So this morning I said, turn the TV off, and I went out. So when I see those things, I do try and stop them. But I like that, you know, I think I would probably, don't give me any fluffy blankets, because I just want to be in that fluffy little cocoon. And it's a big fear of not having it.
Yeah. Victoria.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't know if anybody noticed the frequency when we started to talk about these things. Very important in a meeting like this, especially for you guys. Just notice the frequency. Like we were talking about other things and there was a different kind of energy. And then we started talking about this. And for me, I don't know if this is true for everybody, it kind of went down a little bit and there was like a sense inside here of heaviness. Like I wanted to breathe, speak a prison. And, you know, I just want to say that that is something that we need to investigate together in places like this. We need to investigate it because what is that? Is that a feeling of fear of these things? Is that a fear of it? Is it something, I mean, it's uncomfortable. Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't want to bring this discussion out because we have to go on. But I just feel like, you know, I just wanted to say that here. It's not in the context of this meeting, really to go there, but it's so interesting that happens because we all have, I mean, the world is a prison. The world, the way it seems to be, is a prison of prison habits. And you know, how much they affect us. Somehow there has to be some insight into them. Okay, Cynthia.
So thank you for noticing that. These are our, what we could call shadows, or the things that we are fighting, the ways we want to improve, we're not quite getting there. And so one thing that comes to mind is we've got to give ourselves a little bit of a break. This year, we've all gone through so much, the whole planet has. We've got to not be quite so tough on ourselves, to be a little slower, slow down, and be a little more gentle also with ourselves. But what you said reminded me that, you know, we are all still suffering. We have a long ways to go, but we have each other, and just banking off of each other is so helpful. But what I was going to say before you said that quickly is that, well, it's not important.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we have one more selection for you, and I'll enter it, and then we will see where we're going. Okay, so this is a quote from the Upanishads. This quote has meant a lot to me for many years. The Upanishads are the closest teachings that were given to the students in the Vedas. So they are very, very ancient. And they were given, Upanishad means sitting close to the teacher. So it was for people who are very close to the teacher or the teaching, whatever that means to us, our inner teacher. It doesn't mean we have to be sitting with a live guru. So that these are the teachings. It's so interesting to me that they're so secret now. They're on a million places and they're sung and they're played everywhere on the internet and in this world. So that's another whole topic. So, let's take a few minutes and read this and then see where this enters us. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to start this off with saying the mind grown pure and silent. And, our topic here today, nourishing the loveliness that drapes our purest thoughts. So we're nourishing loveliness and drapes our purest thoughts, something that drapes it, the loveliness that drapes our purest thoughts, nourish the loveliness. And so this kind of does that for me pretty well, nourishes the loveliness that drapes our purest thoughts, in the sense that it's very ancient and it seems like present today. That's the really, amazing, consideration about that it's present today. Not only is it present here on the internet, and we're reading it, and we're not sitting with a teacher in a Vedanta teaching. So I just want to open this up to the beauty that it is, and I hope you enjoy it. Greg.
I mean, there's so much in this that I could respond to, but the first thing is just that, is that 20, 30 years ago, I don't know if a pure and silent mind would have been something that would have been a public value. But I think as the mind and thoughts have become so erratic, as evidenced by a lot of our world today, a pure and silent mind merging with a formless truth sounds pretty damn valuable, that state. But the other thing that was really interesting from just a pure visual thing, I don't know if this was conscious when you put that up there, but the first statement that the self is everywhere, shining forth from all beings, it was very bright yellow. And then as you go deeper into it, the bottom was a darker, deeper orange, kind of a warming type of color, kind of like very similar to like an ocean. When on the top, the sun is shining and it's glimmering, and you go down deeper and it's that dark, deep, pure blue that's silent and pure and calm.
Beautiful. Janet.
Well, I have to laugh and I have to say thank you, Noelle, because I notice Noelle capitalized self when she put it in the chat. And boy, did I ever want to do that when I looked at what was on the screen, where it was not a capital S, because I want to differentiate the self that is pointed to in these words from the egotistical self. And for me, there's a big distinction between the two. I'm complete.
Viviana.
You know, I was reading about this about the vastness of the vastness, and that, you know, I cannot really get into me. It's, the meaning of that is so big that I don't know, I just wanted to say it's so, I cannot even imagine how vast it could be to really go deep inside, to really get into you, like in the very first quote that you put, you know, it's, I don't know, that's all.
Well, yeah, exactly. Vaster than the vast. And nearer than breath. What, like, it's been a koan in for me. Nearer than breath, nearer than heartbeat. This is real. I mean, there's something about us that's nearer than our breath. It's nearer than our heartbeat. And our eyes can't see it, our ears can't hear it, and our tongue can't talk about it. And it's near, and it's right here. It's nearer than our heartbeat. So I mean, what is it? You know, that's the, and vaster than the vast, unreachable. One.
The part that particularly sticks in my craw is the part that says tongue cannot utter it. Because every artist, every actor, every poet can spend a lifetime trying to utter it. And so I myself, in writing this poetry about the spiritual journey for many, many years, come into this relationship trying to utter the unutterable. And that's really what it is. That's really what it is, to relate intimately to another dimension with its own very different vocabulary that contains so much in every impulse, which the poet then tries to put down in this lower script. And yet we don't stop, whether it's the poet or the artist, we never stop trying to express the unutterable, inexpressible beauty, love that it is. So, yeah, that talks to me.
Anton and Christina.
Thank you. That was beautifully stated, Ron. I really appreciate what you said. And the statement as it was presented on the screen is really fascinating because it depicts an everywhere-ness that is totally non-sensory and not graspable as an object, making the seeking for it as an object an impossibility. And yet and actually the seeking for it being one of the bars in the prison. And yet, as he said, it's the power behind every act of creativity that we can attempt. And you know, we can't embody it in something limited and objective as words or or paint or clay or dance or theater or whatever. That's impossible. But all of those serve in the aggregate to point to some universal source that is both the prompting of individual expression and of a public reception that is experienced as a feeling of unity and as a raising of energy and of, if you will, communion and connection. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
Well, I don't know that I could add to that. That was beautiful, because it's, you know, the last two contributions have been basically saying that, you know, we can't really capture the uncapturable, if you will, but yet somehow these things are captured in some way through the artist, through the poet, through these beautiful words. I mean, here we have, you know, something from the Upanishads that there are a bunch of words strung together, yet they have some sort of energy, some sort of higher vibration. They have some sort of lofty intention to wake us up to a reality that normally we're not aware of or awakened to. So it's, I mean, that in itself is kind of humbling my mind into a more pure and silent, you know, state that would allow me to merge with something in this formless truth. I mean, what, it really does boggle the mind, but in the most beautiful, exquisite way.
Yes, and that is exactly what meditative reading, meditation is about. Exactly that. And like when I read this, I'm happy to hear that because my mind hasn't gotten it. You know, so I have to tell a little story. My sister and I were in Costa Rica together, sitting on a deck overlooking the ocean, and I brought Zen Bone, Zen Flesh. You know, like book. So I'm reading it to Helena on this deck, and she's sitting there and listening to me and listening to me. I'm reading it to her. And then she gets up and she goes, you know what? I don't get it. And I thought, oh my God, she's like enlightened. Because that's a statement of truth. You know, but this is so great. My sister sitting right here is the Buddha completely. And, you know, like I no longer expect my mind to get it because I've tried for, you know, about 40 years, and it's trying still. No, I mean, you know, but there's a getting it on a different level, as everybody's been saying. But it's really relaxing to know that I'm not, like, it's not going to be understandable by me. So it's relaxing. That's relaxing to the mind. Like it's okay now. And then when I hear, you know, it's when I hear, you know, you can't utter it, you can't see it, you know, then I feel happy. Because I say, I know something that I don't know. There's something that is known that by me is not known that way. But you know, like the wind, you can feel the wind, but you can't see it. The wind affects us, but we can't see the wind. You know, so it's this whole sense of really, you know, bringing us to a place, and everybody says unknowing. It's not, I don't know if it's unknowing, it's just a place where there's a knowing of knowing. That's all. And there's a relaxation that goes with that. So I think we're at the very end of this time together. And so Ron, did you want to, well, first I want to thank Bob and Noel. Where are they? Bob and Noel. I want to thank them because they are such a support to Ron and I and Vistar. And if anybody doesn't know them, see the little sign behind Noel, Co-Creators Convergence? They run this Co-Creators Convergence, which we were part of founding many, many years ago. Very proud of that. We're original co-founders. And they are a service couple, life partners, as you can see behind Bob. And they just do so much active work. They have been serving humanity since I've known them, which is since 2012, before 2012. And they run this meeting every Thursday night there's like it's co-creators convergence meeting where there's it's like this. People come on. They usually have a speaker who's bringing something somebody's interesting, and people come on there and talk about it. So you can put that in the chat, Noel. Anyway, so they've helped us. And I know John Raymer isn't here. I don't think he's here. But John Raymer Sign Network, for those who don't know it, oh my God. John Raymer and Becky Suzik, who's here. She doesn't look it, but she is an artist, but she's really some kind of unusual, incredible tech person. I don't even understand what she does, but she does huge, amazing, productions. Really, she really does, and she's really helped Unity Earth so much, and she's smiling through it, which is special. And so, yeah, John Raymer Sign Network. What does it stand for, Becky? Synergy, Impact. What is it?
Synergized Impact Network Exchange. It's John and Summers' company, but
So
it's actually could be all of our company. That's what I love about it. I'm a member. There are many members that are here, but
Why
it's
don't
a
you tell
way.
them?
Yeah, it's a way of using trusted sharing to amplify our individual message across multiple Facebook pages. So right now we're going live, I believe, on multiple pages. And so instead of just going live on Readatation group, it's going out through through Sign Network to multiple pages. And that way, this beautiful message can bless and reach more people because we trust each other. We trust to share each other's content on each other's social media assets, if you will. It's really powerful.
Thank you. It is. It is incredible.
She's gorgeous. Okay. All right. And so, yeah, we wanted to thank John for sending this out everywhere. And Ron, did you want to finish things up?
No, I think I love these get-togethers. I really do. There's such a sense of closeness, which transcends our distance. When we talk about these things that mean so much, are so heartfelt, it's such a connection, and the uniqueness and the individuality that comes across while we're talking about one. I love that. So it's great. Thank you all for being here. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. And I hope we meet again soon.
Indeed.
Happy New Year,
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Happy New Year.
2022.
I'm fully
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Thank you, Victoria and Ron. Beautiful.
Happy New Year.
everyone.
Happy New Year
Thank
to
you.
you all.
Thank you.
Well, yes,
Well,
but you
Bob,
need to bring this to a Thursday night. Co-creators conversation we have every Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time, or we're now starting a once a month Saturday at noon, because we want to be able to reach people, in Europe and Africa. We're getting requests that 8 o'clock is too late for them. And so we're starting a Saturday. So every Thursday and then a Saturday at noon Eastern. So just let us know. We're booked up for January and February, but there's always March. Love to have you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful to be here with everyone.
Wonderful time together. Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2022.
All the best to everyone. Have a great new year.